All right, in the meantime, we've got former South Carolina Republican Senator, current Heritage Foundation President Jim DeMint. Jim, what do you make of these latest developments, the fact that Mitt Romney and Donald Trump are just going to meet, period?
Well, it's a good signal. From Donald Trump's acceptance speech to everything he's doing has shown a conciliatory attitude, putting the past behind. He's interviewing a lot of great people for his transition. So all the signals have been good.
One of the things that came up, and I wanted to pick your brain about it, is yesterday Speaker Ryan intervened with Republicans who are kicking around the idea of bringing back earmarks. And I know that's been the bane of your existence, that it's an easy way to spend. It's like a drug they can't get over. And yet the drug was considered re-released among Republicans, no less. He put the kibosh on it, but he didn't kill it. What do you make of that?
Well, good for Speaker Ryan for stopping it, because a lot of new members had been convinced that they taken home the bacon. I mean, this is special interest, local money.
Do you think he stopped it? Because he seemed to me like he'd hold off on that.
Well, at least it gives us some time to let the Americans know that the Republicans may be going back to the trough. But it perverts the whole purpose of a federal government doing what's best for the nation when everyone is up here trying to take specific local things back and crony interests for special interest groups. And over 70% of Americans just know automatically that earmarks are bad for our country. So hopefully Republicans won't embarrass themselves, particularly after this election, but with going back to the trough of pork barrel spending.
I wondered whether it was, and you've gotten into this before with me, that, you know, I always look at this kind of earmark as a down payment on still more spending. It's a way to buy votes for much bigger spending plans. And maybe this is a way that Donald Trump might use to try to win over support for his own legislative agenda. And it might bother you, but if the ultimate good is his legislation is passed and he can do what Ronald Reagan did with Southern Democrats, boll weevils, whatever you called them back then, it's worth it. What do you think?
Absolutely not, Neil. I can't remember one piece of good legislation that was passed with earmarks. But you will remember things like a Cornhusker kickback, earmarks going to Nebraska to buy. Basically, Obamacare was passed that way. Dodd-Frank was passed that way. They passed bad legislation that members would otherwise not vote for, but they get $30 million, $50 million to take home to build a bridge to make them look good as a congressman. We can't go back to that at a time we're $20 trillion in debt, and there are a lot of things this country needs as a whole. We don't need our Congress fighting over pork to take home to their states.
If I can go back to what I was originally talking to you about, Senator, this idea that Donald Trump is meeting with people who didn't have great things to say about him during the race. I'm talking about Ted Cruz, I'm talking about Nikki Haley, I'm talking about others with whom he's chatted even on the phone, to say nothing of going around in that very public world of the Trump Tower. He might populate his staff and cabinet with people who were not necessarily diehard loyalists. Chris Christie's a good example of someone who seems to have been shunted aside. What do you make of that? It shows a different Trump than certainly what people were thinking.
Yeah, I don't think America knows Trump yet. A lot of Americans believe that he can change Washington. The media cast him in a very negative light. But everything that I've seen that Donald Trump has done since the election has been a commitment to keep his promises, to put good people around him, and to carry through with his policies. So far, I've been really impressed at what he's been doing with personnel and policy.
Well, it's certainly been against the consensus and some of the cynicism that greeted him when he was first elected. Well, those are pundits. Yeah. All right, Senator, thank you very, very much. Jim DeMint.